Unmute. Okay, now good. Okay, so today I'm not here to lecture you or tell you what you have to do or where you have to go or how you have to think. Here today I'm gonna share my personal story as a Palestinian Christian, as a woman in Palestine, as a mother, and how life is there in the West Bank. Because I think most of the Western people don't know about us, Christian Palestinians. They don't know we even exist, because most of the time when I meet foreigners, they would ask me, when did you convert? As if I was Muslim and converted into to Christianity, which is wrong. I was Christian, I was born Christian, I am Christian, my dad is Christian, my grandfather Christian, my great-grandfather is Christian, from both my mom and my dad. Actually, my dad is a historian, so he went back to the family tree and he was able to reach year 1670 something. We were in Bethlehem. We are a Bethlehemite, originally from Bethlehem. So we never converted into Islam. Actually, some of my mom's family escaped from the Ottoman Empire so as not to convert into Islam, so as not to pay a jizya, which is like the taxes that was imposed on non-Muslims, and to escape that they put them in the first line of war, those who are non-Muslims. So we stayed Christians forever. And my grandfather, Ayub MUSALLAM, was born in Palestine, in Bethlehem, 1905. My dad, Dr. Adnan MUSALLAM, was born 1944 in Bethlehem also. I was born later, much later, in 1988, but yeah, also in Bethlehem. So we are all Christians, Palestinians, Bethlehemites. We had in Bethlehem, it was always a struggle. It was always a fight mode. Though Bethlehem is a very beautiful city. Before, in the 90s, before the Palestinian Authority came and started their governing, Israelis and Palestinians lived together. Most of the Israelis would come to Bethlehem for shopping and come to eat kebab and meat in our restaurants. We had really good relationship with our neighbors, Israeli neighbors. And when I was a young girl, just a child, I remember my dad taking us uphill. So I live in Beit Jala. Beit Jala is just a neighboring city of Bethlehem, okay? And the Christian city. So we would go walking uphill before 2000, that's what I'm telling you. We walk uphill and go for a picnic on the mountain, going up, and then we reach Gilo, which is a settlement that was built in 1967 on our mountains. But still, we were able to go there and play in the park with our Israeli kids and friends. And it was so nice. We were just one nation. Like, we didn't see the difference. Just because they don't speak Arabic and I don't speak Hebrew, it doesn't mean we couldn't play together. Playing doesn't have a language, you know? So, but unfortunately, in 2000, in the second Intifada, things turned really, really, really wrong. And we were into a crossfire between Israeli tanks and Apaches, helicopters from Gilo, and freedom fighters from Bethlehem area who would shoot at Gilo with small guns, with like really stupid arms and weapons, which didn't even reach to Gilo. It would fall on our heads in the valley of Beit Jala, where I live. And Israel and the military took the excuse to bomb us, as always. So they would bomb us from tanks, from Apaches, And I still remember that night, the 15th of November, 2000. I was only 12 years old. My mom was at work and I was with my dad at home. We had a vacation day. It's like the Independence Palestinian Day, though we are not independent, but that's the day that we celebrate independence, the 15th of November. And I was studying actually Arabic. I had an exam the next day. And some shooting started from the neighborhood. And suddenly we just heard bombing from tanks. You could know the difference between bombing from a tank to a bombing from the Apache. It's two different voices, two different sounds, actually. And so there is no place to hide. We don't have shelters, for example, like in Israel, in Gilo, everybody goes to shelters. In Beit Jala and Bethlehem, we don't have such thing. We never had shelters. So we have to hide in the safest room in our home. In the safest room, meaning maybe it doesn't have a lot of windows, maybe it doesn't face Gilo. We should go to the other side of the house. So we would like to try the different rooms in our house to have safety. And my mom almost was caught in the middle of the fire until she got to us at 6 p.m. We hid in a place that we thought it was safe. It was me, my mom, my dad, my little sister Jessica, who was 6 years old back then, and my sister Gina, who was 16. And we had there, we prayed to all kinds of prayers to God, to Virgin Mary, to Jesus Christ, for protection. It was really scary. I remember it as if it was just yesterday. The sound of bombs, the sound of bullets, the sound of the shaking of the house. It was really scary. And at some point, I remember my mom opening the door where we were hiding and the window, and she started shouting for people outside to stop. Like we wanted to escape, to leave the house, because we started hearing our house windows were like falling down from the bullets and from the rockets and so on. So we didn't know what's happening in the rest of the house, but we knew that where we are hiding, we noticed that it's like a place where you go up to the roof, and the roof was immediately in front of Gilo. So if there is a rocket that is coming on our way and it will hit our roof, it will come down on us and we will die. So we had to run and leave that space because it wasn't safe, even that space. And we called even like ambulances, we called people to come and take us out, but they told us that they can't enter the area, they can't enter the neighborhood because it was like a war zone. Trees on the floor, on the ground, electricity everywhere, and so they couldn't. And also, we called the American embassy because I am American citizen, but I have never lived in the States. My dad lived. My dad is a veteran, U.S. veteran, Navy U.S. veteran. We called the U.S. embassy to get us out. They told us, well, we are sorry. We can't get you out. You are Palestinians. So we stayed. Nobody came to rescue us. So we had to depend on ourselves to run away and escape from our house. We called our neighbors who live just beside us. Their house is like lower than our house. And it's like the back of the house is like underground, let's say. And we thought it would be the safest place to escape to. But the problem was that between us and them, there is a big electrical gate that wouldn't open because the electricity was down. So my dad risked his life while the Apache is just up in the sky. He was holding a white shawl to tell them that he's a peaceful man. He doesn't want to do anything, so they won't bomb him. And he went to that gate, big gate, with our neighbor, an old woman. Her name is Regina. God bless her soul. She's now dead. She was holding Saint Nicholas picture for protection because she believes that Saint Nicholas, back many years ago, he protected Beit Jala from rockets. And so she believes that Saint Nicholas will protect us also. So she was with Saint Nicholas picture, and my dad from the other side, they started pushing the gate until it opened a little bit where we were able to pass. So he called us, we were on the floor, crawling outside the house with our blankets, and we're also holding like white things to say to whoever is watching us that we are not fighters or anything. We are just civilians. And we passed. We went to the house downstairs, and we stayed from like 9 o'clock p.m. until the next day, 6 o'clock in the morning. That was the longest night in my life. We could hear our house being bombed. We could hear people screaming in the neighborhood. Some people were injured. And the last thing that we heard before our phone died, that our neighbor, his name is Dr. Fisher, God bless his soul. He is German, actually, married to a Palestinian woman. He went down from his house to try to come to our neighborhood to rescue us. And they bombed him from a rocket from a helicopter. And that was really like, okay, we said, if they bombed that man, it's our turn. So it was really scary for me and for my family. We opened all the windows, we put them down so no glass will, shatter. And we waited with all the bombing happening. I remember very, very clear, like if it was yesterday, the Apache in front of us above Beit Jala, and it was bombing the house behind us. So I remember very clear the sound of the rocket when it went out from the Apache towards us, the heat of the bomb, like, and then I would like jump from the floor again on the floor. It was like so tense because they were bombing the house just behind us and claiming that there was fighters there, though it was a Christian family house, and there was 25 people in the house. But luckily, the house where they lived, they had a first floor house where they had a very old, like a cave inside the house where people in the past used to store like sugar, rice and stuff. So there was 25 people, including like kids, women and so on, hiding in that cave inside the house where nothing happened to them, thank God. But yeah, the whole house like fell down on their heads. The next morning at 6 o'clock in the morning, when things calmed down and there was no sounds of shooting or rockets, we went up. We wanted to go back home to see our house, what happened to it. And it was partially bombed, not everything. Everything was like broken in our house, including like glass, pipelines, water pipelines. It was like from the bombs, it was like all exploded. And there are people on the gate outside trying to enter. Yeah, sorry. And the only thing that wasn't broken or was intact is the Virgin Mary statue. It was there, holding there. And it was for us as people who believe in the Virgin Mary, and we pray for her. We prayed for her all night long to protect us. It was a happy moment to see our house broken. It's okay, but the Virgin Mary statue, It was really good. And the next thing I did was going to my neighbors. I had a best friend who lived next door. And so I went to her house, took her. Her house was also partially bombed. Nobody was injured. And we went to our third friend who is like furthermore than our houses. And the thing I saw that morning really like changed my life as a 12 years old. I saw the flesh and blood of my neighbor all over the place and cats and dogs eating it. It was horrifying. I'm sorry for that detail, but like I want you to like to feel with me what I saw with my eyes. And the next thing I saw, my sister, my eldest sister, who wasn't with us, actually she lives in Bethlehem, but she was seeing all the bombing and shooting on us, and she couldn't do anything. And the lines cut with her at like around 2 a.m. So she thought that we were killed, and she was pregnant in her 8th month. And so she saw me, she like ran, and we cried so much. And then, you know, I left her and she continued to my family house to see my parents. And it was a moment where like, yeah, she thought that we were killed. She couldn't reach us all night long until 6 o'clock in the morning when she came. Yeah, and then after that day, we decided to leave the house. We went to another house in Bethlehem. We were around like living with other people, with my grandma, with my sister, a few days in our friend's house, few days there and here. And at the end, we like rented a house in Bethlehem. But the house that we rented in Bethlehem, we got bullets from Rachel Tomb area. So we had to go back home. That's the safest place, though we know it might not be safe, but I'd rather die in my home and not die outside. So we fixed the house. After 4 months of leaving the house, we fixed the house and we went back. This time we fixed the first floor. We were on the second floor. We live on the second floor, but on the first floor, there is a house that is not like even, it doesn't have like walls or like windows, nothing. It's just, it's not built. But we thought if we build a room there, we could hide. It's more safer than being up, at least from bullets or from small, you know, bombs and so on. We could be safe. So we fixed the room, all of my family. We had a bathroom. There wasn't like a floor, so it was just dust and we covered around us the walls with some plastic because there wasn't a way that we could build the room that period. And we would go up every morning to our house, cook, do the dishes, do our laundry. And then the moment we hear any bullet coming out, we would run down. And that was every day until the next like 2 years almost. We were just going up and down, up and down, up and down, sleeping all of us down in that room every day because at night you are sleeping, there is no time to escape, but in the morning you can still escape, but at night we couldn't. So we slept down for almost 2 years. And one day there was this organization from London. They are called Women in Black. They called us and they said they want to do protective presence, or let we say unarmed civilian protection. You call it what you want, human shields. So they sent a woman called Liz. I hope she's watching me on on Zoom, because Liz, yeah, I would like to thank her from the bottom of my heart for what she did to us. To feel safe with her being in our house. And that opened our eyes to the importance of UCP, unarmed civilian protection, that what my colleague Mel will be talking about after. Liz stayed with us for some time, and one day she told us that she's inviting a friend over, which was great. So we prepared dinner, and we were sitting there waiting for her friend. And that woman, that lady came from the door. I remember her so well, very blonde, blue eyes, curly hair like mine. And the moment she saw us, she started crying so much. And she ran to us and started hugging us and kissing us, and especially me because I was like, little and so on. And she was, I am sorry for what my people are doing to you. And this woman was an Israeli, Jewish, and American woman who came to protect us also, who risked her life to come and protect us in the West Bank, in Bethlehem, in Beit Jala, where it was really scary to be there. At any time, you could be killed. So that was a turning point in my life as Amira, a 12 years old girl who used to play with Israelis, who were her friends. Doesn't matter the language, but I love to go to Gilo to play with my Israeli friends. Two, Israelis killing us and killing my neighbor, and they are my enemies, those who want to kill us all, who don't like us, who don't love us, who hates us. Two, okay, there are good people in this world. So yeah, that was the turning point where I believe in dialogue with the other. I believe that you cannot hate. You cannot hate. Hatred just brings more hatred. Violence brings more violence. But if we start talking, if we start listening to each other, if we start listening to the pain of the other person, then we will arrive to a solution. Sooner or later, this will end with dialogue, and with not only dialogue, empty dialogue. It's like dialogue with compassion, listening, with open heart, with no judging. It's really, I believe in that. And from that moment, that woman, that Israeli, Jewish, American woman changed my life. And from that moment, I started going and participating in every conference, in every activity that they held for Palestinians and Israelis together, for dialogue activities. We would eat together, we would travel together, we would play football together, we would do all kinds of activities together, hiking together. It wasn't easy, yes, it wasn't easy to tell your story and to tell who you are and convince the other person in front of you to see you like how you want him to see you. It wasn't easy. And there was lots of moments where I cried because those people don't want to hear me, don't want to feel my pain, don't want to see how I live in Bethlehem, how I live under siege, how I live in an open air prison that I will show you in a bit and on the slides. But there were moments where, yes, they heard me, they cried with me, they cried for my pain, and I cried for their pain. So I did that all the way until I was older. I just was volunteering with the different organizations. And when I got older, finished my university, I worked for peace. I worked for organizations who work for peace. I worked with Israelis for peace. And I worked for a big project on water problem in Palestine, water problem for Palestinians, and how water is a big problem in Palestine. Because if you know, I don't know if you know, but water, we have lots of water in Palestine. Palestine is a very rich country in water. We have lots of springs, but the problem that those springs get dried from our side to give them to the settlements nearby. So, for example, in Bethlehem, in summertime, we have water, for example, in 3 months for 20 days maybe. So either you have a well that you have to fill it, or you have to buy water, which is very, very, very expensive. So I worked in that project for 4 years. It was a regional project, Palestinians, Israelis, and and Jordanians, actually. And we were like visiting each other. We went to Jordan, they came to the West Bank, we went to Israel, and we did lots of work and lots of projects together on ecotourism, on water management, on many things. And it was really, really good. And then I worked sometime with the Bereaved Family Forum, this organization who works, who brings bereaved family who lost kids, family member for the war, and they bring them together to talk, to listen to each other, to make a dialogue. And then I went into the business world. I opened my own real estate company with my sister, Jessica, and we worked there for 4 years in business. But when 7th of October happened, I left it all. I thought, no, this is the time to work for peace. This is the time, because what we have been doing the past years and talking about peace, I think it was useless. I think it was empty. I think we just ate hummus and danced together and we really didn't do anything. And that is the time to do real work. We have to stop just really like talking and yeah, let's talk about peace, but then do nothing. And I thought that the 7th of October was the time for me to leave the business, because I didn't even feel that I'm there. I didn't feel in my heart that I belong in the business world. I belong here. I belong where peace happens. I belong where the change, where a change must happen in Palestine and Israel for Palestinians and Israelis. And since then, I got back my contacts, my Israeli friends, which was very difficult to talk with them back then. They were shocked. They were traumatized. They didn't understand what was happening. A lot of them didn't want to talk even. They didn't want even to listen. A lot of them went back to army and went back to fight us. But also lots of them came back and think like me, that this is the time for real work. We cannot, nobody will, we Palestinians will not throw them in the sea, and they cannot throw us in the sea. We have to live together. We have to coexist. We have to live in peace together, in just peace, not just any peace, in just peace. And so in July, I was called by Nonviolence International and Nonviolence Peace Force to do an assessment report about UCP in Palestine and how important it is. UCP is unarmed civilian protection, where we ask foreigners, Israelis, whoever can, to come to the West Bank and be with us in Area C or wherever they can, to protect us from military, from settlers who are losing control or lost control, and they are attacking us really in a violent way, in an unjust way, protected by the army and the police. And this happened more violently after the 7th of October, and also with the new government of Smotrich and Ben Gvir. So yeah, I was on the assessment team. We were going all over the West Bank. We talked with many people, and we came out with a report that Mel also will talk about it later on, and that's why I'm here in the States to go to the UN and present it to the UN and other officials in the States, to show them the importance of doing this work, not on an organizational level and civil society organization only, but to make it like a big thing and maybe get them to come out with a mandate or something for UCP in Palestine. It is really needed. But also, after we finished the assessment and I was doing the report, I got this call on the 31st of July. My ex-mother-in-law called me to tell me, come pick up your son. I'm a mother for a son who's 9 years old. His name is Ramzi. she called me and told me, hurry up, come get your son from Al-Makhrur, from the land, from their land. They have a land in Al-Makhrur. Al-Makhrur, actually, okay, so let's go with the slides first. Okay. Yeah, this is a campaign that I'm part of also, the 6th and 7th and 8th, because a lot of attention is being put on the 7th of October as a Remembrance Day for Israelis and what happened to Israel, which is, of course, we are doing it, and I'm part of the 7th of October tomorrow, the Vigil Day in the Union Square, but also, and also actually, it's very important to remember the 6th of October is for those Palestinians and Israelis who were killed before the 7th of October, due for the conflict, for the occupation, for the violence, for all kinds of attacks that happened on both sides. And the 7th of October, to remember the 7th of October as it is, and those people who lost their lives on that day. And then on the 8th, to remember those who lost their life after the 7th of October, from the 7th of October until today. All the souls that we lost in Gaza, in Lebanon, in Israel, everywhere. Yeah, that is the map that I wanted to show you. It's how Palestine was divided since the Ottoman Empire all the way until 2023, which I think even more green. There is less green now in 2024 due to all the outposts and not only the settlements. If you are familiar with outposts, it's just a small new pre-settlement that is being built by people who think they can do it, and they build it on our lands in Area C. Area C also is under the Israeli administrative and military control. So I think the green here is much less now, but yeah, this is how it is, and we are kept with these small greens things. Next. Okay, so this is Bethlehem. More zoom into the Bethlehem area, if it's very clear, but okay. This is Bethlehem. This is Beit Jala. Okay, and we are surrounded with with many settlements. So we are surrounded with Gilo, with Har Gilo, with Afrat, Tapua, like so many settlements and so many roads that I cannot go on, or roads that are controlled by the Israeli military. And it's very dangerous. So now, for example, if I want to go to Hebron, which is like 20 minutes from my house, it's very dangerous. And the moment we arrive to a crossroad of Gush Atzion settlement, I I pray tens of times, because it's really scary. Because at any movement you do wrong, maybe you lost your brakes, or maybe, I don't know, you got dizzy and you turned your steering, you will be killed. That's the situation on those roads between our cities. Next. It's not very clear. Maybe we should turn off some light, but okay. Okay, so that's where I live. I live just like here in this area, and that's the view I see every day. In the past, we used to go up. This is Gilo. I live in this area. We used to go uphill and go to play in the park here. And now, the moment I open the windows of my room, that's the scene I see. Apartheid wall, a bridge that connects the south of Israel, the southern areas, the southern settlements with Jerusalem. And I'm not allowed to go on this road. Only Israelis or those who hold Israeli passports, or foreigners like you can go. I can't. Even I have an American passport, but I'm still for them a Palestinian. And yeah, this is another view from another place. And look how the wall, when they tell you a wall, apartheid wall, it's really, it's not a security wall like Israel tries to portray it. It's not. It's an apartheid wall. Because if it was a security wall, it wouldn't go between our houses, inside our houses, giving them more land and leaving us with no space and with no air to breathe. And this also another example of the wall. This road is Jerusalem Hebron Road. It's in Bethlehem that connects Hebron with Jerusalem. And before the 90s, we would go with our cars to Jerusalem, and Israelis would come from Jerusalem to Bethlehem through this road. And suddenly in 2000, they remembered that they have a Rachel tomb. Okay, that it was there forever, and kids would like, sorry for that, but we'd be on it, you know? And suddenly in 2000, they remembered that they have a Rachel tomb and they have to protect it. So they decided to cut the city in the middle and cut this main road in the middle and build the wall just in the middle of the street and cut the northern part of the area to the southern part of the city. And that's how we are left with a big tower where soldiers are up there, a gate that at any moment the soldiers come out from there. Many people were killed due to this tower and this gate in Bethlehem. And yeah, that is a little bit of wall and land confiscation. Next, please. And here we come to Al-Makhrur. Al-Makhrur is a very beautiful area. You would love it. I don't know if someone from here came to Palestine before and came to Bethlehem. Yeah, Samita, so you were there, yeah. And it's the only green area left for us in Bethlehem. The only green area, because going south, east, you go to the desert and you go to the Dead Sea, and all that area from Bethlehem to the Dead Sea is now like military zone. You cannot enter, or area C that you cannot do anything in it. So we cannot enter it. And it's full of like settlers and so on. So we cannot go there. Going south, you are faced with a lot of settlements, different settlements, ultra-Orthodox, more extremist settlements to the south of Bethlehem. Going north, you will see the apartheid wall that I saw you in Rachel Tomb area. So it's like closed, you cannot do anything. And from the west, we are only left with this green area, which is under Area C still, but we can still go there, do picnic, do hiking. Actually, there is a lovely movement, in Palestinian movement that was created in Al-Makhrur, which is called the Right to Movement. I don't know if you are also familiar with it. Young people started running the Right to Movement, started running in that area. Every day at 5:00 p.m., they would run in those mountains in that area. My in-laws had this land, which is 4 dunams. I don't know in acres so much, but yeah, 4 dunams. They had a beautiful house, 2 floors. They had a beautiful restaurant where Israelis also used to come and eat. Okay? In 2011, they gave them a demolishing order in the restaurant, though it wasn't really built. Look, if you see, it's all like wood, plastic, zinco, it's like nothing built from concrete, because that's the rule in Israel, that like in the Israeli civil administration, that you cannot build something from concrete in Area C. You can only put like a caravan or something with wheels. You cannot like build concrete. Okay, so we did it in without concrete, only with wood, but still they decided to give us a demolishing order. They demolished it around 7 times until in 2017, they decided to put their eyes on the house also, which was built, if you look at engineering side, it's perfectly built, like 80 square meter each floor. It's urban house. It was built like like the law says, okay? But what we found out was that they put the house in the same order, the demolishing order of the restaurant. But they didn't give us a paper with the demolishing order for the house, only for the restaurant, but they put the house inside the same, demolishing order. It's like the two cases, they put them in one. And also what we found out in 2017, that Haminota, who's Haminota? Haminota is a baby company or baby member of the JNF. The JNF is the Jewish National Fund. The Jewish National Fund, what they do is they claim land for the Jewish nation, okay? And that's what they did since before even the 1948. And they bring Haminota into the West Bank, and they say, okay, we bought this land from that man, this is ours. And that's how they built their settlements, claiming that they bought the land from the owners, okay? So we went to court because they are claiming this land is theirs, and we have papers. What are our papers? Our registration paper from the Israeli civil administration, because my in-laws are Israeli citizens, Arab Israeli citizens who have Israeli passports, and Christians also, and French citizens. So they were able to get this paper from the Israeli civil administration that they have land registration in the name of my father-in-law. And Haminota couldn't bring any paper. They brought a paper that it looks like a deed, a Jordanian deed, okay? And they have their name there on it and so on, and the name of the owner who they claim he sold it for them. And we went to court. But even before the court was finished, to put to say who's the owner of the land, who's the true owner of the land. In 2019, they came and demolished the house and the restaurant together. Can you move down, please? Now, that's my son in front of the house when he was younger. That's Ramzi, and that is the house, beautiful house. Go down. Yeah. Play. Yeah. It doesn't have a sound. It's too much. I didn't put it. It's too much crying, screaming, shouting, cursing, like doing everything. It is heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking to see my father-in-law. This is my ex-husband. That's my mother-in-law. And you will see now my father-in-law who built this house brick by brick, window by window, wood by wood, and with his own hands. Nobody built it for him. He did it with all. That's my father-in-law. He was just like, yeah. And I was the one filming, and I was like crying because seeing all of that, seeing the house where my son was born and raised is being demolished in front of our eyes, that was really, yeah, heartbreaking, devastating. I don't know what words can yeah. And look at it. Just like Lego, down. Even that day, I refused to go out from the house, and I went up the second floor. You can go next. Yeah, that's the house. That's the remains of the house. Nothing. That day, I went to the second floor. I refused to leave the house. I said, let them kill me. Let them demolish the house on my head. I don't care. This is my son's house, and I want it, And I tried to use the American citizen thing, but who cares? They do not care, And they was like holding tight into this wooden thing, and two military came up and they started like trying to drag me. I held on there very tight until they hit me with the gun on my head and I fainted. That's how they brought me down. Yeah, I couldn't hear in my ears for 1 week, but it's okay. Go down. And that was, wait, pause. Okay. That was the 31st of July when my mother-in-law called me to bring my son from the land. So since 2019 until the 31st of July, we were until the 23rd of May 2023, we were in courts against Haminota, that they were claiming that the land is theirs, and we are claiming that the land is ours. So what happened is in the 23rd of May 2023, we won the court. It's not like really winning, but it's that the court ruled that Haminota couldn't prove ownership because they had fake deeds, and we could prove the fake deeds. We went to the Israeli archive, and whoever wants to see all these documents, I have them, I can send it all to you. So we went to the Israeli archive and searched for that deed, for that number, and we took out an empty deed, it was very old deed that didn't have any writings on it. On the other hand, Haminota brought the same deed with written things on it, like their names and the name of the owner since 1969. They are claiming that they bought it. So we were able to prove that it's fake, but the Israeli court didn't say it's fake, because how come they will, accuse their NGOs or whatever you want to call it, that they are faking papers? Because if they say it's fake, then so many lands will be exposed, and so many settlements will be, exposed that they were built on a stolen land, on a fake papers. So they didn't say it's stolen, it's fake, but we can prove it, and everybody and anybody who is with his brain and smart and human being can understand that this is fake. Okay, so yeah, and the court said Haminota and the JNF doesn't have anything in that land. They cannot be in the land. They cannot take anything in the land. They have to be out, they cannot go in the land. Ramzi, KISSIYA, and Michel Level, who are my in-laws, can stay in the land, but they have to leave the land if the original owner comes back. Okay, the original owner, who is Sabeel left Palestine in 1967 to Latin America, and he never came back, and he has no kids, so he has no inheritance. Okay, my father-in-law is his cousin, and my father-in-law took the land from him, his father took the land from that man in a leasing contract for 99 years for agricultural reason. So we would plant things and so on. And that's how we got our land registration, from that paper, official paper from the church, from the court church, and from the Israeli government. And so they waited until 31st of July when they came. Who came? The JNF with settlers, sorry, with settlers. They came, little kids. We will see them in a little bit more. They came and started pointing guns at my ex-husband and my son. And that's why they called me to bring my son. They didn't want to see that. But when I got there, it was too late. They kicked him out of the land. The police already took my ex-husband, though we called the police, the Israeli police, to come to protect us. Okay, they came and took my ex-husband. And my son was standing there. I could see anger in his eyes. He wasn't sad, he was angry. I could see it in his eyes, because what they did, those inhuman, I don't want to say bad words, but what they did, they took all his toys and crushed them in the floor in front of his eyes. And I saw my son with his eyes, really, he was angry. He didn't even really cry. He was just angry, why they are doing this? Why? So I took him away, and that video where when I went back, and I took those settlers, young settlers, boys under 18, most of them, taking our land. Can we play the video? No, up and play. No. Put everything out for us. They removed us from the land without any paper, without any rights. And here they are, military protecting those settlers. That's my father-in-law. They are, he is saying. No, Israeli citizen كمان احنا. احنا Israeli citizen. Kids, look, little kids, say hi to the camera. Babies. Babies. So my father-in-law was saying, like, please tell the world that we are here, we are a Christian family, we didn't do anything. And I was saying, yes, you are also Israeli citizen. And he said, like, and they are here kicking us out, and they don't even have an eviction order for, you know, the military. They don't have any eviction order. And in that moment, there was like 2 soldiers standing there. And I went to ask them, like, what are you doing here? Who are you protecting? And she was very honest. In another video, but I didn't put it here. In another video, she's saying, well, we are here to protect the settlers. And I told her, what about those families who are also Israelis? She said, well, that are the orders from the higher ranks to protect the settlers and not you. You have to step out of the land before we use violence against you and kick you out, you know, like drag you out of the land. So I was sitting there, didn't know what to do, honestly. But I remembered a few years ago, we did UCP, unarmed civilian protection, in Sumut camp, which was in the northern Hebron Hills, in Tuani, Masafariyat. If you hear the news from Palestine, you would know about those villages. Those are Bedouin villages who are on a daily struggle with settlers, attacking them, attacking the shepherds, taking their water resource, not allowing them to graze their, you know, the animals. Like, they are being attacked on a daily basis. And I remember those who I worked with them in Sumut camp, those who are my friends, my Israeli friends. Again, we are going to do work together, real work. You know, not just talk about peace, but like really do real work. So I started by calling my dear friend Sulaiman Al-Khatib, who's the founder of Combatants for Peace, one of the founders. And he was in the middle of a meeting with all the staff, you know, in BEIT JALA. And he called me immediately and told me, what do you want? What do you want us to do? I told him, I need unarmed civilian protection. I need you here. I need my Israeli friends and colleagues to come and protect us. And immediately, that's what he did. He started calling all his colleagues, all other organizations. Also, one other organization responded, which was Rabbis for Human Rights. They responded and called other organizations. Also, Free Jerusalem, they responded to the call. Also, B'Tselem responded to the call. Like, you know, in 2 hours, I had like 30 people coming to protect us from those settlers. 30 people who were Israelis, who were Jewish, who were young, old, women, boys, men, coming to protect us Palestinians in our land against their own government, against their own people. And that, for the first time, even my father-in-law didn't feel alone, because the whole years, the past years, he felt all the time alone, that he's fighting a system, he's fighting mafia, he's fighting the government, and nobody is there for him. And on the contrary, they like accused him of selling the land for Israelis. They accused him of so many things, you know. But this is the first time he felt powerful, united with Israelis against this injustice. And if you go down to the picture, those are the kids. If you see little kids under 18, those are kids at risk from Israel. Kids at risk who the system used to let them work in settlements. to let them steal people's lands. So the system, the Israeli system, is using their kids, their weak kids. It's not like any kid who's coming to work. This is a kid with problems, a kid who's been abandoned by his family. Maybe he's an orphan, maybe he was on drugs, maybe he has a psychological problem. Instead of embracing them, giving them the place to feel loved and embraced, they bring them to see people's land under the reason of this is the Jewish land, this is the promised land that God promised us in the Bible with it. And so this is Judea and Samaria, and this is our land. That's how they come. They come with all this, brainwashed. And even if you go inside the land, at some point we went like several times in the land, and we saw all these Bibles everywhere, they like the Torah. They are like using religion and using their weakness to use them against in this whole conflict. And this is really sad. And I think more Israelis should speak up about that, how the system are using their own kids to do such things, to put them in danger. Like imagine that someone wants to revenge and comes and shoot at them, like let's assume that they will be also in danger. So yeah, little kids. And this is one of the demonstrations that we did, organized, of course, with Combatants for Peace, my dear friends. This is Jamil sitting on the ground, and what they were doing, they were trying to reach the land, and they were trying to make like a human shield. So as the military will not reach us, the Palestinians in the front. So most of these people are Israelis and Jews. They are sitting here protecting us. They didn't want to leave, and at the end, they took them in force. They kicked them away. They threw on them stun grenades and tear gas bombs. They hurt them so much. I also got a hit on my back from one of the soldiers. So I was just taking video. He hit me. I like flew, and the stun grenade then he threw under my legs. And we were there doing this work for 30 days. For 30 days until okay. I forgot one important with time. I think I talked so much. Okay. So what they did is nothing. They just every day we went there, we tried to enter the land. The military would come and protect those settlers against us, and they would throw us away with tear gas bombs and stun grenades. That's what happened until the day, the 4th of September. They demolished also our solidarity camp. We did a camp just nearby, in a land nearby, and they demolished it because they didn't want to see us together, united against them. We were there, sleeping together, eating together, doing Shabbat, doing Fridays, doing Sundays prayers together. It was amazing. Like you will even we did the horn, on Shabbat. It was amazing, and those like Muslims would be praying, and Yeshua, our friend, would be, playing the horn, and others like priests would be praying for on Sunday. It was amazing feeling how we were united. It was just a small example of how we, people in that land, Israel and Palestine, we could live together. We need just to do the right work. And and then we did the visual. Lots of you here did the visual with us on the 29th, and we built this beautiful church. And again, the next day they came and demolished it. So we are there. We will try and go down. This is the church we built just 2 weeks ago, and we were praying. This is Yeshua who all the time do the horn. I don't know how to say it in English. The shofar, yeah. And this is our church, the Nation Church in Al-Makhrud. But the next day, if you go down one slide, the next day, put play.
Jerusalem,
they came and demolished.
near BEIT. The place is called near Jala El Mafroon. It's the last Christian heritage of UNESCO, a green area. That the policy of the government right now, mostly and the other people, is basically to take as much the land using the monetary orders, mostly to take people out of their land and put the occupiers on their private land.
How beautiful the area is.
In a sense, they oppress the people till they break. Many of them don't fight because they don't have not the means, not the support. But KISSIYA family, they are Israeli citizens, they are Palestinian Christians that basically are long time already persecuted by the government, and they faced some orders, they took the land, even though that they lost it in court,
So we can stop that. We said the story. So yeah, we will keep fighting with all our friends, with all our community, with all our people out there, either from abroad or either in the land, hoping to get the land back, because we know we will get it back. Sooner or later, we will get it back. But it will not happen by ourselves. It will happen only when we are all united as human beings, different backgrounds, different cultures, different religions, and especially Israelis and Palestinians together in that land. I think that's when we will get back our land. So yeah, thank you. And I will invite Mel, my colleague, to talk a little bit about please.
Well, thank you, AMIRA.
Can we turn on some lights? Yes.
Maybe we should leave them off because I'll go quickly through a few slides. First of all, to correct some of the advertising, it was a voice from the West Bank, not voices. AMIRA is really the voice from the West Bank. She had mentioned about unarmed civilian protection and the prospects of organizing more intentionally and more broadly unarmed civilian protection in the occupied territories. And that's what I'm going to share quickly a little bit about with you tonight. First of all, in terms of what we're talking about, one way to look at nonviolent action is that organized strategic nonviolent action can be used for civilian resistance in terms of being used to change the status quo. It can be used as civil defense, for example, to protect the status quo. So, for example, at Standing Rock, I'm sure probably some of you were there, in 2016 and 2017, there was a lot of talk about that being civil resistance. But actually, what the Standing Rock Sioux and many other tribes who came together were doing was protecting the status quo. They were protecting their traditional lands. It was not civil resistance. If anybody was trying to upset the status quo, it was the Dakota area pipeline and all the people who were working on trying to get that pipeline, which they successfully did, through that area. So they were, the tribe and their allies were organizing to protect the land nonviolently. And what I'm going to talk about a little more tonight is organized strategic nonviolence that's aimed at protecting civilians and preventing violence. And oh, you do? Oh, here I thought I was doing it. All right. Thanks, Liam. Okay, so those of us who are committed to nonviolence really need to know this story because there's people who are here who are a part of this story. You know, Raphael and Sunita and other people who are here tonight who have been part of doing unarmed civilian protection And we've started to study this much more deeply because it's working, and it's working in a lot of places around the world. We've identified, and by we, I'm using that very broadly. This is a study that was done at Selkirk College in British Columbia. There's at least 61 organizations that are doing some form of unarmed civilian protection, or what some people call protected presence, other people call accompaniment. There's at least 61 organizations. There's a lot more than that. Those are just the ones that we know about in 30 areas of the world. And as the assessment team that AMIRA was a part of, they identified 22 groups alone working right now in the West Bank that are doing some form of unarmed civilian protection. Liam? And so as we've looked at this, what we really find is that there's a shift going on in the world in terms of what civilian protection looks like. In the past, and really still today, it looks much more like this. It's heavily armed, weapons using force and dominance. For example, the UN still is spending about $6 billion a year on what they call peacekeeping, armed peacekeeping. But it really is shifting to look more like this. It's nonviolent, it's human-centered, it's people to people, and these are themes that we identified through a lot of these organizations working in a variety of areas of violent conflict in the world. It's from the bottom up. It's reliant more often than not on leadership of women and youth. It recognizes the primacy of local actors. It expresses solidarity, and not always, but often nonpartisanship. And by that, they're not nonpartisan when it comes to international humanitarian law or human rights or asymmetrical oppression, but in terms of choosing who's right and who's wrong and who's to be protected. It's based on relationship and trust building as opposed to dominance and force. And it's been proven effective in some of the most violent places in the world. So the major themes, local knowledge is crucial. It works through building of strong and trusted relationships. That's very different than than armed peacekeeping. And the use of nonviolence is not just armed actors, or not just disarming soldiers and sending them in, as has been tried in a few cases. It really is people who are committed and well-trained in nonviolence, because that opens up a whole area of proactive strategies, okay? And I just point this out, there's been a lot of studies, independent studies now, that show both quantitatively and qualitatively that this is working. So when people say prove it, we can't. This is a study that was done on Pure Violence's work in Honduras, okay? And so when we look at Palestine, Francesca Albanese, the special rapporteur for the UN Human Rights Council, who just spoke very eloquently after the bombing in the West Bank on Thursday, the Israeli bombing. In her report in March, talked about what was needed is the deployment of international protective presence. And she cited the work that was already being done by Palestinians and Israelis. And so what we were looking at is what she was recommending, building on what is being done, and also what was contained in the demands of the Security Council resolution that was passed in March for the ceasefire, not the US ceasefire resolution of June, but the earlier one, okay? And so the assessment team that spent time there and just actually completed their report and we're happy to make that report available to anybody here to give you that link. Is first of all that the UCP organizations operating for years in the West Bank and East Jerusalem now face increased violence. That the restrictions on entry to occupied territories, especially for internationals, have escalated. It's much harder now for internationals to get in. They almost, I think they all rely upon tourist visas, and some of them are reporting now that at least a third of their people are being turned away, and that some people are getting tourist visas for as short as 3 weeks. That's very hard then to do work when the foundation of this work is based on relationship building, and we're hearing from people on the ground that it gets tiresome to always have new people coming in. And that nonviolent activities are met with violence that are further suppressing protection efforts. And that all has escalated dramatically since October 7th of last year. As I said, they've found 22 groups who are doing some form of UCP in the West Bank today, and some very effective work that continues to this very day. Okay. So, and I want to go through this very quickly so we can get back to questions and conversation primarily with AMIRA. One of their recommendations is that we train or that we deploy 100 UCP personnel immediately to the West Bank and East Jerusalem. We're talking about people who are already experienced working in violent conflicts. One of the other pieces of good news is that we now have hundreds of veterans who have worked in violent conflicts, who have worked in South Sudan, who have worked in Ukraine, who have worked in Guatemala, who have worked in the United States, who have worked in Canada, who have worked in Colombia, who have worked with both violent governments and violent non-state actors. And this experience is there. And people are willing to step forward. In fact, we're building a roster right now of people who are willing to commit at least a year. Secondly, that unarmed civilian, that UCP in Palestine, they're recommending would monitor and advocate for a UCP deployment in Gaza, where there is none right now. And that there be engage in diplomatic pressure for a ceasefire, and that a part of that ceasefire would be the inclusion of unarmed civilian protection as an element of that ceasefire for sustainability. Okay. As I said, there were no formal groups that are operating in Gaza. With a UCP presence of what's being recommended, that it will increase the visibility and the presence to deter violence, and that the personnel will be experienced and also receive extensive training and support on top of that. And so there are people now from a half a dozen UCP organizations who are developing the curriculum that would go on top of the experience of the people who would go. So the main methods that were identified by the team were proactive presence, something that you mentioned, accompaniment, interpositioning in terms of placing people between conflicting parties, which is the least frequent of the methods that have been done by UCP groups, but have been done. It's the most dangerous, but have been done successfully in various conflicts. De-escalation of violence, which is often the entry point in terms of the work that's done by teams, and also the ceasefire monitoring. This also came through very strong about personnel being trained in trauma-informed care. As we met with people and as they met with especially the people doing UCP work, they heard over and over again about the trauma that the teams were facing, let alone the people with whom they were working. And that we would do training to adapt to the specific needs in Gaza as soon as we could get in there. We lost the second recommendation. Okay, go on to the next one. It fell off the top. The second major, so much for PowerPoint proficiency. The second major recommendation of the team was that a lot of the different groups were asking for support, the existing support or existing groups for support in terms of enhancing their work. And that came primarily in terms of more training. Some groups were reporting that their people were going out with as little as a day of training, and that they would appreciate more training or consistent and focused training and advanced training, as well as conflict coaching and resource sharing, as well as a means to strengthen the collaboration among UCP groups. And you heard what AMIRA said in terms of how quickly she was able to get groups to collaborate just in a matter of hours, right? And so that is there. And if that could be done more strategically, there could be a lot more protection spread around throughout the West Bank and other areas. Okay. And so let's just go through these really quickly. These are just examples of where it's been done and done successfully in various parts of the world, the different methods that are being recommended. But let me stop on this one, because this is very key. In the Philippines, in Mindanao, in 2009, Nonviolent Peace Force was invited by both the government of the Philippines and the Moro Islamic Liberation Front to be in charge of the civilian protection component of the ceasefire. And Nonviolent Peace Force, along with 3 local groups, were in charge for 4 years of monitoring and reporting on any civilian protection violation that happened. But more importantly, unlike the temporary project in Hebron that came out of the Oslo Accords, in this case, we also had the mandate to intervene if there were threats to civilians, to directly intervene for protection. Also, the teams there trained about 3,000 local people across the island of Mindanao, who also monitored, reported, and intervened. And so over 4 years, that really spread out both the knowledge of the ceasefire and the ownership. And so that led in 2014 to a peace agreement that is still being implemented and is in the final stages in Mindanao, and is one of the success stories in the world right now. It's in, hopefully its last year. And so this demonstrated how civilians, again, and not military, were essential in terms of the success of a ceasefire. Okay. And that just shows how the incidences of violence dropped over the years. Okay. Another example in Mexico of methods that have been successful by CEPAZ, another group. I wish I had a lot of time to talk to you. I have lots of stories to tell. The women's protection teams, another important part of unarmed civilian protection, is supporting people in terms of self-protection. And in this case, women's protection groups in South Sudan, which there's now over 60 women's groups that are doing things like preventing gender-based violence, preventing the abduction of children into various armed groups, and are doing it very, very effectively in a extremely male-dominated society. Next. So, in terms of the mention or the recommendation of at least 100 people to be deployed, and I talked about veterans. A year ago, right now, there was a gathering of people from about 30 unarmed civilian protection organizations and we gathered in Geneva on the 6th and 7th of October. And so the people are there, and they're there from all over the world, and they're a resource that we can call on. And they're a resource that comes from us. They come from the nonviolent movement. They come from civil society. And we're there, and we can play an important role in supporting AMIRA and the work that needs to be done in Palestine today. So thank you.
Well, thank you both so much for sharing your story, sharing your wisdom with us here tonight. We'll enter into a short period of Q&A. There's a number of questions that came in from online, but let's just start with
The people.
the folks that are here tonight, and then perhaps we'll take one.
And then we can even like stay, me and Mel,
Great.
even after people will finish, and then we can answer, and it will be recorded for those who want
Great.
the Zoom.
Great.
Yeah,
So we'll take a
maybe.
few minutes to do some formal Q&A, and you'll be here to talk.
Yeah,
afterwards.
Exactly.
Wonderful. So if anyone has a question, throw your hand up and.
Yes.
You could maybe just use the mic so everybody can hear.
Can you talk a little bit about how you see community organizations recruit and fund people to do this work? Is it full-time labor in that sense, where it's like it, as you were talking about it, I joked to my friend that it reminds me of like missionaries coming and speaking at church, right? Of like, here's the thing we're doing, here's the mission, the vision. Can you just talk a little bit about how it's organized, I guess?
It's really organized in a variety of different ways. Some of the organizations rely totally upon volunteers, and those are usually short-term deployments for like usually 3 months or less. And then others are longer term, and those are usually people who are recruited for a year or more. And in those cases, people are paid and are paid like a living wage for their work. And they tend to be able to stay for a year or longer. And that's where then the relationships are able to be built. And so usually when in those cases, those organizations do get funding from various either UN agencies or the European Union, or from various governments. For example, the Dutch and the Swiss fund this kind of work.
Questions?
Hi, thanks so much for the both of you. It's really inspiring. First of all, I just came back from the West Bank for a month to protect the presence. So,
So I said,
yeah,
I love his face is familiar. I'm not sure where I saw him. Yes. Hi.
so people have questions after,
Yeah.
like about places to stay and stuff. Let me know. One of the most beautiful experiences, really, of my life actually was the women-led solidarity march.
Yes.
I feel like there was a lot to learn from that. for anybody in here that does peaceful or non-violent resistance. So I was wondering whether you could tell us a bit about that, what that was like. Great.
The one that happened in Al-Makhlul, right?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So a woman led circle and march was the idea of our dear friend Mai Shaheen from Combatants for Peace. Also, she's a dear friend of mine, and she was there with us from day one. She was actually the first one who, when I was going to the land, when I took my son away, I called her, Mary, come with me, I'm going to the land, we're going to fight those settlers. And she was the first one coming with me to the land and standing up for those settlers. And so her idea was to do a march from the Solidarity camp, where we were, all of us, Israelis and Palestinians, foreigners, men and women, to march to the land. But women would lead that march first. It means that men will not be in the back, it will be in the middle. So we'll be leading and making a circle around our men. Because normally our men, those who will be attacked first by the military, they will have the excuse, he's a man, then we will attack him first. So we, as women, marched with our men in the middle. They held the lights and the candles, and we were around them singing, saying poems, saying prayers, playing some instruments, and they were in the middle protected by us. And that was a beautiful, beautiful march. We marched, and when we got to the military, they were prepared for clashes, you know, they were prepared that we will be like hitting them or like trying to reach the land, or, you know, and they brought so many soldiers. That was the first time I saw so many soldiers for such a march. They were so terrified from us. But when we reached there, we stood there and we were saying poems for them. How tough they are, yet how they should be, you know, more human, and more, and how they should see us, how Israelis and Palestinians, we are together there. They should be ashamed on what they are doing, protecting the thief, protecting the injustice, you know? And so it was very beautiful, and they were just standing there, didn't know what to do. They didn't even talk to us. Normally they approach us and talk to us and they start throwing stun grenades. They didn't do anything. And we were like there, standing there for 1 hour, and then we marched back with our men in the middle, with no one hurt. And yeah, it was really strong. Yeah. Though the media didn't like that, because there's no action to, you know, to film. That's something you should know about the media. Wherever there's, you know, violence and hurt and blood and hate, you will see the media, you know, they are there. That day, all the media came, but they went like, oh, there was nothing happened. No. And you didn't see any news about that day, about that march, only from us, like people who participated in the event. Yeah, so.
Other question?
Other questions? Yeah, we have. Okay.
Hi, my name is Sabeel. I just wanted to say thank you guys. This has been very interesting to hear about. Just because there's usually a lot of talk around like violent approaches towards resolving conflict, and you know, even within the Palestine movement, I think there's a lot of like, oh, you know, we're like armed resistance sort of talk. So it's interesting to hear a different perspective. Do you think that like this sort of approach of the
UCP.
yeah, do you think that it would be able to happen also like in Gaza or in like other parts of, I don't know, like
Yeah.
really intense high conflict areas, or is that like a thing maybe like when things calm down a bit more? I'm not sure. Like, yeah, just trying to understand.
There's
Answer.
there's a question, if I can ask one more question
Yeah.
that came from the Zoom room. From Kim Redigan, she says, thank you so much, Amira, so good to see you. We are here with you, they're coming from Detroit. And the question is, do you see a role from those of us who serve on shorter international UCP teams to come in for a month or two to relieve long-term team members? That's her question. So,
Again, do you see what? Sorry.
sorry, I'll repeat it.
Yeah.
Do you see a role for those of us who serve on shorter international UCP teams to come in for a month or two to relieve long-term team members? That's her question. And
You can
folks are
answer
having
that,
a little
I
bit of a hard time
answer
hearing
the
you
one
online,
Gaza.
so I'm gonna move it
Okay.
closer. Just because
So,
they're having a hard time hearing.
Regarding Gaza, actually, when we did the assessment, I was on the assessment team, so we did so many interviews with the Gazans, with different NGOs, with different like UN, UNRWA and so on. First of all, they told us that it's impossible now. It's impossible because so many humanitarian organizations, internationals were killed. Though they would like tell the army that we are in this place, don't like hit us, we are coming with the Red Cross car or a UN car or whatever, they would still bomb them. Like one incident happened just a few months ago where they thought they used the AI to see what is inside the car, and they saw that there is weapon, and it wasn't. They were like humanitarian aid personnel going to provide food for a school, and they were all killed. Other times, military using the Red Cross and the UN cars to shoot at people. So it's really dangerous for now. But when things will calm down or we get a guarantee somehow, I don't know how, but maybe with what we are doing now here in the States, talking with UN, talking with different states, talking with the officials and so on, maybe we can do that. Bringing in people for Gaza is very important, and especially in 3 different areas. First of all, on the borders. The second thing is when distributing the humanitarian aids to people. So to be there observing, helping, doing whatever they can to be around the people. And the third part is really to do UCP between the clans. So it's like between Gazans themselves, because if we have a ceasefire tomorrow, people will fight into each other because of food, because of water, because of a place, because of a land, because like people there are, we cannot know what will happen. So we need people also to do UCP among people, among the clans. But also, I got this testimony from a Gazan. He said that Gazan people lost hope and lost trust in the international community. So even if they come in, they will not be accepted. They will not be welcomed. So that is another thing that you have to take into consideration, and we have to take into consideration. So until we can deploy people to Gaza, we need to all the time make interviews, look around from the south to the north, from the east to the west. It's so different from each city to the other, from each village to the other. It's so different. So Gaza, it's like a whole project by itself, it's a whole thing by itself.
And there are examples of where UCP has been successful in very heavy violent conflict. In Mindanao in 2008, when there was intense fighting between the rebel group and the government of the Philippines, and in South Sudan in 2013. And currently there's UCP teams in Ukraine, in Donetsk and Kherson, for example, that are very intensely if there's intense violence. So I'm not saying that that necessarily means it works in Gaza, but I'm saying that there are examples in intense violence. In terms of the short-term, the shorter-term teams, first of all, I think that there is a lot of value in shorter terms, teams just on their own, you know, but also in providing relief for the longer-term teams. I think that could be a valuable role as well.
Okay, thank you. Perhaps we could take one or two more questions. If anyone has a question.
Sorry, I came late, so apologize if you already answered this. But I'm just curious, obviously, ways that we can help, you know, but particularly I'm thinking of the Save Al Makrour movement from here. So my question would be, what are some specific ways that you guys see, you know, people outside of the land helping to continue to help? And obviously joining a UCP would help, but for those of us who can't because of children or whatever, what are some other ways that you see?
There's just a comment from online that I'll read in the intermediate. It comes from Blake, and he says that, Amira, you mentioned being able to share digital copies of the land deeds for your family and the fake deeds used. Blake says, I would be interested in getting a copy. I find evidence is helpful in advocating to friends and family in the US who don't understand the settler colonialism that takes place.
Okay,
So
sure.
just to share that came from.
Sure. Jess, please, if you can share with in the Zoom my WhatsApp number and my email, both. Just write them down for the people on the Zoom. And of course, I'll be more than happy to provide any document that you want, and I will explain anything you want about the story more in details. Yeah. Regarding helping, there are many ways. But honestly, because already people are talking about the Save Al Makrour, like people are doing visuals. It was very, very nice how people are really like interested. In 2 days, we were able to get a WhatsApp group with over 500 people, and so it was amazing, and like for us, it's like very empowering. It's very, you know, it makes us keep going. But also on the other side, you can talk about how it is being done, this injustice. So it's not about just talking about Al Makrour and that's it, but it's talking about the JNF, how they are using and stealing people's land. There are lots of articles written already, but they are not very famous. Like Canada, 1 month ago, I think, they sanctioned the JNF and they stopped funding the JNF. Canada, for example, we need more countries to do that, to stop funding the JNF, okay? To expose what the things that they do with the kids at risk, like do more research about that. If you can get, you know, somebody to do, I don't know, investigation about it, or, you know, just expose those things that Israel is doing and the military is doing and the JNF is doing is more than enough, you know. The problem that in our cause, in our Palestinian cause, I think only recently people started to be aware of the conflict, but they are aware only of part of the conflict. So they know about, okay, the war in Gaza, bombs for more than 40,000 people are being killed, you know, etc., etc. But they don't know more details of the conflict. Land confiscation, ethnic cleansing, the types of ethnic cleansing and the kinds of ethnic cleansing, and how is ethnic cleansing is done to people, to Christians, Christian Palestinians, talk about them, that we are almost extinct from Palestine. We were more than 90% before the 1948, and now we are 1% in the Holy Land. 1%. Where did we go? Why? The answer is so easy. So yeah, so talk more, like not just say, okay, the story about Al-Makhlud, expose more the occupation, expose more the occupation and what they do. And I think that's the best thing. Help organizations who are doing the work, support them financially if you can, spreading their word if you can. You know, there are a lot of Israeli and Palestinian organizations who are doing the work. And just like really know to who you are donating. Just don't donate to anyone. Like let them prove for you that they are doing some work and not any work. You know, just like doing the work for a solution, not just doing a summer camp for kids. Okay, that's nice, beautiful, but lots of people are doing summer camp for kids. We need some more like action. We need more work to be done for this conflict to end. So yeah, and for the KISSIYA family, of course, there's the GoFundMe. You can donate there, even if it's a small amount. It's very good for them. They have endured during all these years so much debts that it's almost more than $200,000, and they can't keep up. You know, like even they work, they are paying for their debts. Like the father is most of the time he's like really hiding because he has court. Like he could go to jail for not paying the debts that he endured through the demolishing of his house and restaurant. So you know that, so these small things can help the family, as this case. Yeah. Regarding UCP, you can actually participate in UCP. You don't have to be one of those who will be deployed to Palestine or Israel. You can do, we need so many people on social media, on advocacy, on training, so we need like so many people who would do some work in the back office. So not all the, people will go to Palestine, 100 people will go to Palestine, but then we need maybe 1,000 people to do the back office work, It needs lots of coordination, lots of work, lots of fundraising, because those who we would deploy to Palestine would get paid. Because I think as AMIRA, it's important to pay those people. Even if some of them would say, okay, I want to volunteer to do it, because maybe he has money or she has the money. But it's important that those people will feel that they are doing something and they are not losing another thing, that their life is continuing, because what happens in Palestine and Israel, from my experience and recent experience, that those who do UCP in Palestine and Israel, locals, I'm not saying about the foreigners who come to do 2 or 3 months, they are only volunteering, they are like students of the universities. They are people who can work remotely, so they can come 1 or 2 days only, but they cannot commit the whole time to come and do UCP. So it's important to pay people and to let them feel appreciated and yeah, they are doing important work. Why not to pay them? So it's important, like do fundraising for the UCP that we are doing. For example, we need how much? $40+ million?
Not 40, no.
Yeah, so yeah. Anything else?
Perhaps that's a good note.
You want to answer anything?
No.
Okay.
Perhaps that's a good note for us to end on.
Yeah.
And
And then we can,
Yeah.
if you want to stay, we can answer the Zoom questions. I have lots of questions.
okay,
Yeah.
great. So let's just extend our gratitude once more.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming, really, it's much appreciated. I would love to see you tomorrow at the Union Square. I'm gonna do, they gave me only 3 minutes, but I'm gonna do 4. Okay, don't tell them. At 7. It's from 7 to 8. There will be more than one speakers. That's why they gave me only 3 minutes. And I think, you should listen to what I have to say as a Palestinian on the 7th of October. I'm the only Palestinian that's gonna speak tomorrow, so I need some cheer up. Yes. Thank you everyone for coming, really, like it's much appreciated. Thank you. Should I really like stay here and answer the Zoom?
Okay. Sure.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
yeah.
Wow,
You,
wonderful.
you want us to answer the Zoom, some of the
I'm
questions?
not sure. I think we covered most of them, really.
Okay,
I could
maybe-
show you the document that has the Zoom questions.
Okay.
Uh,
I took my phone.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, come on.
Okay, so the Zoom, guys, hello everyone. The guy who is giving us the internet for the Zoom is leaving, so we'll not have no more Zoom. But did you take my email and phone number? Yes.
think
Give
so.
me a thumb. Not yet. Okay. Okay, I will write it for you. Wait.
Okay.
Okay, wait. Everyone, how do we write?
Up at the
everyone.
top.
Okay. Everyone? Okay. So I will write my phone number that has a WhatsApp. And I will write my email. And please be in touch with me. Call me. Let's talk. Let's chat. If you are in New York, let's have a coffee. And yeah. I'll be happy to see you and chat with you and give you all the information you need, okay? And if you have other questions, yes, feel free to send me on WhatsApp. I'm not sure, actually, will be the event tomorrow. Maybe you should follow the Israeli for Peace page because they are the one who are doing the event. So Israelis for Peace on Instagram, they are. So maybe you can write them and ask them that. That would be good. Okay. And anything you want to ask me or ask Mel? Mel, can you write your email? Yeah, wait. Put it up.
Yes.
Amira, this is Jen.
Hey.
I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you for coming.
This was passed along from Patrick Marks. I'm giving acquaintance of mine, so passed on. I said to say that.
Okay, thank you.
So thank you, everyone. We're about to lose our connectivity. But it was nice of you to join us tonight. And Amira's already been pulled off by a crowd.
Thank you so much. This is Jesse with Friends of Sabeel, North America. So thank you, Mel. Thank you, Amira. Thank you for amazing stories and some great information on UCP.
Okay.
Thank
We'll
you.
see you again soon.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.